Welcome to Ministry, The Faces of Faith, a series of conversations showcasing ministries at Our Lady Queen of Angels Parish. You'll hear inspiring stories from people with servants' hearts who are living the gospel, volunteering in ministry. You'll hear remarkable and moving stories from those who have been encouraged, supported, and helped by our ministries. Hear firsthand what it takes to be a servant and how you can be one too. Welcome to Our Lady Queen of Angels Ministry series. I'm Kathy Daskley, facilitator of First Impressions, and joining us today is Patrick Lauder, who is the director of the Helping Hands Ministry. Welcome, Patrick.
Thank you very much for having me.
So you're here to tell us all about your ministry, and I want to start out by thanking you. Thanking you especially for your generous spirit.
Thank you.
And the time that I know that you put into making this ministry happen. So Patrick, how did it all begin?
This all began about 15 years ago with Dr. George Hess, who was the director of the WorkNet program. And he found that a lot of the men looking for jobs at that time were homeless, living in their cars. So he wanted some sub-organization to kind of help them with gift cards to buy food and things like that. Then it became its own ministry. Lissa Callahan was the first director, and about 12 years ago she asked me if I would be director, and I gave her an overwhelming yes. And it's been my blessing to be able to serve in that capacity since that time. So we help mainly the homeless and low-income individuals, and anybody that comes to our door is served. We turn nobody away. We help with food gift cards, gas gift cards, bus passes, clothing, toiletries, backpacks, sleeping bags. And we also provide special requests for people that need help with their utility bills or DMV fees, especially women living in their cars. And in that vein, we had 4 different women living in their cars during the last 5 years that we were able to eventually help get into apartments. So that's been very gratifying.
That's wonderful. Oh. Could you describe for us a typical day at Helping Hands?
A typical day is we are open from 9:30 to 1:30. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. And clients or pilgrims, as we like to call them, will sign in a sign-in sheet and wait in chairs that we provide outside. And we usually have 2 or 3 volunteers there at a time, and we'll call them in one at a time based on when they arrived. The volunteers will spend 10 or 15 minutes just listening to their story. And it kind of gives most of them, and this is probably the most gratifying part, it gives these people that are really down on their luck and experiencing big hardships for people living in the United States, validation and affirmation that they're just as important as we are as people. And that's probably just giving them cards is great, but seeing the smile on their face when they feel appreciated is much better. All the clients are welcome to come once a month. We have to stay within our budget, so we limit it to once a month. We usually give like $25 to $30 worth of gift cards now. When it first began, 15 years ago, in that range, we would give them $5 worth of gift cards.
Oh, yeah.
So at that time, we were just funded by a portion of the outreach collection, which the church takes up every month. fortunately, we've been able to kind of publicize our ministry to the whole parish, and we're supported by very generous donations from a lot of the parishioners, so that we could afford to increase it to $25 to $30 now.
Wonderful.
We also give out backpacks and sleeping bags for those that need them. And we have clothes. We have racks of clothes, either donated by parishioners, or we actually go buy the clothes from places like Discovery Center or Working Wardrobes and bring them in. So we have 3 racks of clothes that they can go through, both men and women.
Wonderful. I'm going to get a little more personal, Patrick.
Sure.
How has Helping Hands changed you?
Yeah, it's changed me greatly. I'm a physician, and I retired from full-time practice about 20 years ago, and then worked part-time until 2016. So I became director while I was still working part-time, but in the last 6 years, this is my full-time job. And I organize the volunteers. I put out the schedule. We have meetings about every 2 or 3 months where all the volunteers come and we discuss what our policies are going to be, what our problems are, how we can improve. And they're very fun meetings, lasting about 2 hours on a Saturday morning. And we get a lot of input from all the volunteers. It's a blessing, seriously, for me to be able to do this job. And I probably won't ask anyone else to be director until I can't do it anymore, because I love it so much.
I know. I think that is, I've been thinking a lot about the idea of giving and getting. I mean, I think people think about serving as only something you do for somebody else, and that's wonderful. But I don't think we realize how rewarded we are. You know, that wonderful feeling you get of having helped someone, having served. So what are your needs? And, well, let me ask specifically about volunteers.
Good.
Is there a training process or something like that a volunteer would need to do?
We actually always need new volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
A volunteer typically works 1 2.5 hour shift a week. So it's not onerous. Anybody that isn't working full-time 5 days a week could probably fit it into their schedule.
Mm-hmm.
All the volunteers are very fulfilled from doing this work. And
Are there
it's the work of God. It's what Jesus told us to do in
Mm-hmm.
Matthew 25. Provide food and clothing and shelter for the least of my brothers, and you do it for me.
Amen.
So
we are going to have information on our website about how you can volunteer for the Helping Hands Ministry, or if you would like to make a donation, a financial donation, or of clothing.
Donations are extremely appreciated. And we wouldn't be here without the donations of our parishioners.
Mm-hmm.
Some bring in clothes, some bring in toiletries like toothpaste or toothbrushes or socks or other shampoos, other toiletries like they get in hotels when they travel.
Mm-hmm.
People that want to give monetary donations, the way to do that is either by check or credit card made out to Helping Hands /OLQA. It has to have both of those on the line.
Okay, we'll make sure
that way it goes into our little sub account that our financial director keeps track of, and that's how we buy all our cards and sleeping bags and backpacks and pay for our special requests for utility and DMV help. So please continue to keep us alive. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today.
My
Thanks
pleasure.
again.
My pleasure, Kathy.
Welcome to Our Lady Queen of Angels Ministry Series. I'm Kathy Dascally, facilitator of First Impressions, and joining us today is Tony Horn, a volunteer at Helping Hands. Welcome, Tony. Thank you for being here. I know you have quite an incredible story about how you came to be involved with Helping Hands. So I'm thanking you in advance for sharing the story with us. So, please.
Yes, I was homeless for 17 years at Newport Transportation Center. I became homeless after I have 3 children. They're homeless as I speak now. But to come to part of homelessness, I lost my place, ended up being on the streets. So I came through the Helping Hands because I was in need of some support. I slept on the streets. It was very hard for me. I'm 68 years old, and so by going to the church, I came through Patrick's program, volunteering, and asking them could they help me with I was going through so much emotionally and brokenness, and I felt overwhelmed with my life. So the Helping Hands kind of helped me to listen to me. They didn't judge me, so it made me feel really good at that time. And so they shared with me that I could, they gave me some gift cards and shared with me what I could do for my, as I was trying to find a place to sleep at night. It was very hard to find a place to sleep at night because I was on the ground. So I cried a lot, many nights, because it was very hard for me, and I didn't know which way to go. And emotionally stressed and physically stressed. My bones hurt a lot. And so on that note, I had, so I kept going back and forth, sleeping on the outside. But in the meantime, there's a program called, from the police station, they came over there and saw me, and they talked to me and asked me about getting to housing. And so they shared with me about how to find a apartment. So the police department said that I could go through a program, and they help support me through the housing. So they got me a housing apartment. But in the meantime, as I went through that, get inside, I am inside now. But the emotional stress of being homeless is always the back of my mind of being the stress part of it. Some days I feel like I'm kind of lost. I feel overwhelmed because I was homeless but not hopeless. And I feel like I was getting beat down a lot. I get spit on, pushed around when I go get in line for food or something. And so it was just very overwhelming for me. But Helping Hands, I would go back over there once a month, and they would tell me that, they would encourage me that's all right. So, but one of the men in the program of volunteers, Patrick, asked me to come and volunteer. And so I came into to meet the volunteer and meet with the different people of Patrick's program of Helping Hands. And so I said, oh, okay, I could come and do that. And so what made me really encourage me to help someone else that's helping, they helped me, so I said I could help somebody else out there that's hurting. So the program would help me to see, where I'm at, and then I would tell them, people come and say, well, what's going on? I would ask them, what's going on with you? I would reach them at their level. Some would need help with, like they don't know which way to go. They're on the streets. They have different they need resources because they'll come all over the world. People come to Helping Hands all over the world in Patrick's program. So it would just kind of like, oh, well. So I would tell the people, it's all right. We're here to help you, and we listen to the stories of all kinds of different emotional and physically painful issues of being into homelessness. In the car sleeping, getting abused, physically and mental abused. So it was a lot of stories we hear from over there. Then we would never judge them. Patrick had shared with us, we don't judge the people. We always listen to their stories and then listen to where they needed their help at. I mean, help was like a lot of some needs emotional help, like we share with them about where they need help at. Sometimes the children are having problems or whatever, then we have to share with them, get resources, what they need help in that area. We have a book over there that helps you to find places where they could go, shelters, or help with 211. And so we'd help sit them there. We have people on substance. Sometimes they would need help with that substance, job resources. And then we'd share with them with all these different things they would need to get help in the areas. So it helped me to see that it's hurting the brokenness of myself being broken. It helped me to be a better person today by helping the ones that come through the a lot of donors come through there, and they come and donate different things. And then sometimes they want to get a prayer or listen. There was somebody listen to their story, because a lot of volunteers, they're hurting emotionally too. Outside of helping the Helping Hands, they would share about what's going on there emotionally or physical conditions they have. So a lot of us got physical and emotional conditions. So it kind of help each other to say, okay, we got to help so-and-so's going through this problem. And, when our Helping Hands volunteer. So it kind of helped us to see that everybody's going through different kind of pain and brokenness. So the Helping Hands, we're here to serve like the Good Samaritan. Then we try to walk them through the journey and let them know it's all right. A lot of times they're a lot emotionally, they cry a lot, and I listen to them. And then sometime I pray for them. We don't force God on them, but then they want a prayer. A lot of times they want a prayer, and they'll say, can you pray for me? And I say, okay, we stop and pray for them. And so it's very emotional working with the Helping Hand, but it makes me feel good to knowing that we're here to help them. It makes me feel good when I go to bed at night and say that I'm here to help them. And sometimes my knees bother me, but I keep going, so I just keep on moving on. But I do enjoy working volunteer, helping other people out here, because I ride public transportation. It takes me 3 hours to get over here. I start early in the morning. I start at 5:30. I'm here only on Tuesdays to get here for 9:30. Yeah, I live in a place called Lake Forest, and so I travel on the bus, and I see so many hurting as I travel to come here. I see the no shoes on, have clothes, half clothes on. So sometimes I have extra things, and I give them on the bus, or some water or something, or a kind word to say to the people, or listen to them as I travel here. So it kind of helps me to feel like it's a need of have compassion. That's what I learned with working with Helping Hands, having compassion and comforting people in need of the hurt. So I really support them and hear the pain of the ones on the streets, because there's so many on the streets, and they come from all over the world to come to Helping Hands. All walks of life comes through there. So I really enjoy working there, and the church has really been supportive by just being a kindness and helping the people, volunteering over at Helping Hands. So the church give us good support, and so when we're in need of things of comforting, they help us to listen to us and help us with our areas that we need help in.
Tony, thank you so much. I mean, I knew a little bit about your story, but I think that your connection that you have with everybody who walks through the doors at Helping Hands is just amazing. Having, gone through those similar things yourself. And what struck me also when you talked about the other volunteers, sometimes we think that in order to do a ministry or help, we have to be perfect, in order to do it. And that is just not true. Realizing that the other volunteers have things going on in their lives too, and that you're there for each other.
Yes.
In addition to being there for your pilgrims.
Mm-hmm.
So again, thank you for sharing your story with us, Tony. It's been a delight. Well, that was an amazing experience listening to both Patrick and Tony. Tony's story especially is a reminder that we give from the heart and we give what we can. In fact, it reminds me of the poor widow's story in the Bible where, Jesus had sat by watching people in the temple give their contributions, and many of them were giving lots of money. And then this poor widow comes up and she puts in 2 small coins. But those 2 small coins for her were everything that she had. So that's a reminder to us, when Jesus says that she, from her poverty, contributed all she had, her whole livelihood. So today, when you think about Helping Hands and you think about Tony's story and you think about the poor widow, so any way that you can help from your generous heart, whether it is making a financial donation, volunteering, dropping off clothing, all is appreciated at Helping Hands. You can donate by going to our website,